on you folks. But wherever you are actually logging in, want to welcome you to another incredible series here at Aveda, Next Guest. And, this series has just been already just so amazing, meeting so many incredible guests and learning so many different tips and tricks to take care of our hair. So that series is going to continue today, and I can't wait to introduce you to our guest. But before we get into that, just a couple of reminders. If this is the first time you are logging in, we like to give away prizes, but we make you work for them. So there will be two prize packages given away. Today, we're going to give away a textured hair essentials kit, which is valued at about $250. But you have to pay attention throughout this next half hour because we will be testing you, and whoever answers the right question or answer, that person will then receive that gift. And you have to be logged on to aveda.ca, the website, to actually be part of this conversation. And that's where you will be able to enter your chance to win one of those prize packages. And as always, you'll see when we're talking about certain products, they will pop up just to the top corner, and you can actually click on that, and you can actually make your purchase right then and there, and you can still be a part of this conversation. So you don't have to leave the amazing conversations that we're having in these series, and you can still go ahead right here as there's a little example. So you just click on that, and aveda.ca is where you go to make any of the purchases. Okay, so before I introduce you to our guest, Renee Gadar, I have to put this out. Just we like to have a little brief with all the guests. I like to have a little brief with them the day before. And I think I was on the phone with Renee for about 5 to 6 minutes. And in just those 5 to 6 minutes, I left the conversation with goosebumps all over my body. And just this like joy that she left me with in just 5 minutes. And there she is. Hi, Renee. I'm just
Hello,
telling
Donna.
everybody that our just 5 minutes debrief yesterday just left me wanting so much more just to continue our conversation. So before we get into that, I do want to introduce you properly. So Renee has had a passion for hairdressing since the very beginning. I love this story so much. You fell in love with the power and beauty of hair after getting your hair braided into cornrows as a kid. And then you began the family hairdresser sort of by 9 years, like by the age of 9 years. I have a 12-year-old. I can tell you she was not even helping me out around the house at the age of 9. And then you dedicated yourself to kitchen beautician, which is also amazing in the community by 14. Renee is the Aveda Global Artistic Director of Texture and a powerful voice in the hair industry, and a voice that is so, so needed. Renee has had a lifelong commitment to becoming a master of her craft and is an advocate for education in textured hair. So if you can imagine, a big round of applause, Renee. Welcome, welcome. And thank you for agreeing to come on here and chat with us. Renee, before we get into textured hair and all the fun stuff when it comes to hair, I personally was also wondering this myself. How long have you been with Aveda, and what was it about Aveda that drew you to them, and how fulfilling has it been for you?
Oh man, what a good question. I'm trying to think of how to answer that concisely. Because sometimes, some things are serendipitous in your life. You don't plan to be somewhere. It's just like all the things kind of fall into place. Um, when I'd left the salon that I was in New York, I was kind of on my own for a while and kind of figuring out because what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go next. With the salon that I was in, I knew that advocacy for Black and Brown women in the beauty space needed to be an actual thing, and the
Mm-hmm.
salon owner felt differently. And after a while, I just was just like, okay, so my place is no longer here, but I didn't know what my place was. Like, where does advocacy for that conjoin with me still doing hair? Um, and then I happened to be working with a guy at that salon who runs the Neal Corporation, who does all the distribution for Aveda, and they own most of the Aveda institutes. And so he was like, "We want you. We need you." And what ended up happening was I started doing teaching texture because most of the graduating class, when they do their surveys, they had always reported back that they didn't learn any texture. And so the
Mm-hmm.
schools knew that they needed to do something about that. So they sent me in to do it. And even from my first class that I did, a lot of the times when I went to the class, the Black students or the Hispanic students were sitting in the back, and they were divested, you could tell, from their programs. And by the time I finished the course, oftentimes they were crying and they were running up to me. And I was just like, this need is much bigger and much deeper. This has to be more. And then at around the same time where I'm thinking, okay, I think I found it, the avenue, right? But then where next? And that's the same time that Aveda Corporate called me. And was just like, we
Wow.
want you to build curriculum and it has just turned into a massive affair. So now it's like me working on product development, me working in campaigns, me working with marketing to get the messaging right. There's advocacy in my work everywhere I turn, and I'm still behind the chair doing hair, um, creating a safe, dependable place for women of color to go to, because that's really missing.
That's amazing. I love that we just started the conversation, and I swear I wish you could see my goosies right now. I'm always reminded how hairy I am as soon as I get goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. We need to take care of that.
Yeah.
That really is actually quite inspiring. But why it's so inspiring too is like you said, whether you call it fate or serendipitous or whatever your belief system is, but it's just like in the end of it, this is where you're supposed to be. Period. The purpose is so much further than hair care. It's a huge void. There was a huge void, and there still is. But
Hmm.
you're sort of stepping into that gap and kind of starting to fill in that gap, which is so incredible. I also want to know, obviously there is that void, and you've stepped into this, and now you're an educator. But how powerful has it been, not only for people who are on the receiving side of what you're bringing, but how powerful and empowering has it been for you to be that voice?
Oh man, sometimes when you're doing the work, especially when it's advocating for a demographic of people that have been ignored in such a big industry,
Yeah.
it's you feel like you're in the trenches, and oftentimes I'm not reveling in the fruits of my work. I'm just like doing the work. And so oftentimes it feels heavy and burdensome. Every once in a while, I'll get to do a talk in front of a panel and I'm asked questions and I kind of get to see the work that I've been doing from the top. I'm like, oh
Mm,
my gosh, like there has been a lot of changes in the industry based on some of the moves that like I've been able to make undergirded by Aveda. Because you asked earlier, like, why did I come to Aveda? And I knew that the mission statement that Aveda had, I could weaponize is a strong word to use, but I can always bring it back up when I feel like things are moving too glacially, when there needs to be rapid movement. And I knew that the company had like, they're entrenched with their own mission statement. And so accountability was going to be easier with
yeah,
this company that's already global, who has direct access to R&D. Their R&D is in-house, their research and development, which meant like there was a lot of things that I can impact all at once with a company that I knew would be like, okay, I mean, we have a commitment to this, so we have to figure it out.
that's amazing. And accountability is everything. It really,
Yeah.
really is. Now, you have made it a mission of yours to teach people about texture. And I mean, honest, like even when I look at or think about my group of friends, I would say out of 10, 8 of us have textured hair. And it's so wild to think that we haven't been paying attention to our individual textures and sort of kind of going with this in the box, one stop, like stop shop, and it doesn't work like that. So let's talk a little bit about like what exactly is textured hair.
Yeah. So technically speaking, textured hair includes straight. It's saying that okay, this texture is just straight, this texture is curly, this texture is coily. But when we talk colloquially about texture, what we are usually thinking about is anywhere from like the twos, which are wavy, all the way to the fours, which are coily, and
Mm,
oftentimes a zigzag pattern, and not even like really a coil. So texture is just the form of the single hair strand. What does it do? Like how does it form?
yeah.
That's texture.
So when we look at, so there's obviously, you're right, straight is a texture as well. But I guess what we've always been doing is just getting products for the straight texture when like I don't have straight hair. I don't have curly hair either, but it's like an in between wavy. But when it comes to say different textures other than straight, because that's kind of what I feel like I've just been using products for just straight hair, and then I'm like, why hasn't this worked? Until I was introduced to Aveda from a really good friend a decade ago. Like I will seriously pray for that man till the day I die. Like he saved my hair life. Wesley in BC.
Go
But until
Wesley.
go Wesley. But until I was introduced to this, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Now my hair is doing what I needed to do. But what are some of the challenges when it comes to textured hair that is not straight?
Yeah, I think a lot of the challenge isn't the hair itself. And I just want to put that out there because a lot of the times products that are marketed towards a demographic of people who have textured hair, a lot of the verbiage on it is it's like combative, fight frizz, combat frizz, like tame the hair.
Yeah.
There was a brand, I'm not going to name names, but their curl line was called Discipline. And so
Wow.
we've been taught to feel like our hair is the problem and not just the lack of education or products being made for us. That's the problem. Like the industry had the problem, not
Mm,
us. So I just want to put that out there first.
yeah.
And the challenge is not the right education to have like autonomy to do your hair by yourself at home. Like people feel empowered when they are able to do something for themselves. They feel pampered when someone else could do it for them, right? You feel pampered when you go to the salon, but really when you can take onus of your hair and be like, I know how to do this. And when I do it, I'm proud of it. I feel confident in it. That's where, the feeling of challenge dissipates. And I think the best thing that you can have for that is a solid regimen for yourself, a good haircut, a good hairdresser, a solid regimen, and great products to support that regimen.
Wow, that's actually a really good point that you made. It's not our hair that's challenging. It's what the lack of products or just education, right? Just not being
Yeah.
properly informed. But that's so interesting. You say that it's the wording, it's the mindset that changes. Because I used to think my hair was so problematic all the time. I was like, why do I get the frizzy hair? And all my friends have this like beautiful straight hair, and I kind of didn't like my hair for that reason. But then, as soon as I started using the right products and now I love my hair. However, I will say sometimes I do wish I had curly hair. I love a big, good, curly like look. It's just,
Yeah.
oh, it's so, so good. But speaking of curly hair, though, let's talk a little bit about the frizz that we often see in commercials and in different hair products. And it's like, fight the frizz. What is it about hair that makes it frizzy?
Oh man, that's a good question. So, a part of the texture conversation is not only the bend of a single hair strand, but there are like actual properties to when the hair bends. So, what grows over the hair is keratin, and the way that it grows over a single hair shaft, it looks like shingles on a roof. And when the hair bends an awful lot, keratin doesn't grow as efficiently over that hair strand, and it can make it more porous. It just leaves a little bit more gaps. So, um, because of that, moisture is able to slip in and slip out. Oftentimes, it feels drier. Your hair frizzes for different reasons. Sometimes it frizzes because, like, gray hair tends to be a different texture than like the hair, and that is gives the appearance of frizz. Sometimes it's aging and not producing. You don't have the same amount of oils or collagen that can create dryness, which is creating frizz. And then your hair, just in general, being dry, that's creating frizz. And then there's the frizz that is just the natural part of your hair. Now, that's the frizz that I want everyone to accept and not keep fighting. So, like,
Right.
let's say you style your hair curly that day, you diffuse it, it's particularly humid outside, and that hair starts to swell. Some people want to go fight that. I say spray some like dry shampoo in that and make it bigger. Just
Yeah.
embrace it because that
Yeah.
is really what your hair
Just lean
your
into it.
yeah, because hair is gonna hair. That's like one of my favorite phrases. And instead of like fighting it all the time, like just embrace a part of it, right?
Yeah.
The other part of it is just there are other effects that create frizz. There's like damage and dryness, right? And then those things, Aveda has really good products around like for damage.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things is really maintaining moisture, right? Because dryness often causes frizz. So one of the components of frizz is that if your hair is particularly dry, your hair cuticles will come up like that to try to
Mm,
get as much moisture out of the air as possible. And we know that little movement right there as frizz, right? So
right.
keeping your hair moisturized. One of my favorite products of all time that Aveda has is the spray leave-in conditioner by
Yes,
Nutriplenish. I know that it's one of the products that we have pinned here.
I love
The
this
reason is
thing.
because like a leave-in conditioner is what every texture girly or boy should have. Like that's because you shouldn't leave. Sometimes we misuse masks. We put it on our hair and then we leave it on overnight, thinking that it's going to be more penetrative and do more things for us. Instead, really, it kind of, if you leave it on too long, it cakes over the hair and
Mhm.
then absorbs moisture from the hair. So it actually does something
The
different,
opposite.
the opposite.
Oh, I
So a
didn't know
leave-in,
that.
yes. So a leave-in conditioner it's formulated to stay on your hair. So it's
Okay.
creating those conditioning properties that are meant to be there and stay there until you wash out. This one in particular has all of the protective agents that you need. So it has UV protection, which
Yeah,
means like, because what people forget, like you need sunblock for your face, you also need sunblock for your hair.
for your
The
hair.
sun can scorch your hair and create more dryness and create more frizz. So you want UV protection, you want a heat protection, especially if you're a blowout girl or you like to put a
I
heating
love a good
style,
blowout
right?
on it.
Or you like to put a little curl on the end. So it has that in it. And then it also promises 72 hours of hydration. Just like your body, you need to drink water and you need to put lotion on to keep hydrated and moisturized. Your hair needs both of those. It needs to get wet pretty frequently, and then it needs something over it to hold that water in and be an emollient on top. And that is what your leave-in conditioner is doing.
That is
So
pretty.
your leave-in conditioner is kind of like as soon as you get out of the shower, you rinse out the conditioner, or maybe it wasn't a cleanse day or conditioner day at all.
Yeah,
You want to spray that on like every 3 days. If your hair is natural and you're wearing it natural and not blown out, you want to get your hair kind of wet or damp every 3 days and respray this on. It doesn't
yeah.
have to be cleansed. It doesn't have to a reapplication of products, but you want to make sure that there's something on it that's keeping that water content kind of in the hair.
That's how I use this too, especially if I'm feeling a little bit lazy and I want like that cute beachy look.
Yeah.
Now, especially now that I have a little bit of color texture in my hair. I love this stuff so much. And we're gonna talk a little bit about the gel as well, and like if you really want to enhance your curls. But before we continue the conversation, we're gonna give away a prize. I want to
Ooh.
remind. I know we're very generous here at Aveda. I do want to remind everyone, though, who is tuning in that you have to be logged on through aveda.ca to be watching this, and that's where you actually enter in your answer. So here's the question. Let's see if you've been really paying attention, folks. What product hydrates and replenishes hair for 72 hours while detangling and protecting it from a lot of styling or heat styling? We kind of just talked about it. That one was an easy
This
giveaway,
is an
but
easy
let's
one.
see. Oh my gosh, I love these answers. The first one, is it A, sap moss shampoo? Did we even discuss that? I don't know.
No.
B, Nutriplenish leave-in conditioner, or C, Be Curly co-wash? I'm sorry, I'm laughing at these answers because this one is so obvious. And if you
Yeah.
don't get it, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Oh, that was awesome. So please put in your answer, and the first person to answer that correctly will be contacted by someone here at Aveda, and we'll make sure you get your kit for Textured Hair Essential, and it is valued at $250. So good luck to you. Okay, Renee. So let's keep talking about textured hair, and in terms of tips for protecting and keeping textured hair healthy. So one of the tips that you shared was the leave-in conditioner, obviously to protect it from the UV rays, and to keep it hydrated. But what are some of the other tips that you can share with us so the texture is, like you said, we don't think our hair is problematic, but it's just us taking care of our hair.
Yeah. Well, one of the big tips is remembering that you do utilize water, right? Water is a big one. Just like oils
Yeah.
are still, because on YouTube, you could get misinformation and you could get people saying only use water, only use oil. Both are
Yeah.
necessary. You need both, just like your body again needs a drink of water and it needs lotion. In this case, like I particularly like the combination of getting your hair wet every 3 days and then spraying a leave-in conditioner on it. The other big thing is making sure that you're a styling product. So you have to be thinking about what's sitting on your hair for
Mm-hmm.
days at a time, right? Like textured guests are not cleansing every day. They should not be
Right.
cleansing every day.
Right.
But
How often should you be cleansing your hair?
so that depends on your lifestyle. And that's why one of the tips at the very beginning, I was just like, make sure you have a good haircut and make sure that you have a hairdresser that you trust because they actually tailor make it for you. It is not a one size fits all. Some people swim often, some people exercise often. You don't want salt on your hair for too
True.
long. So there are a lot of different things that you have to consider.
Some people wear a
Some,
ton of hairspray who work in TV, like me. I feel like I always have
yes.
bad hair.
So, one of the other products that we have that we're going to talk about today is the co-wash. So, for those who need to wash more frequently, a co-wash is available. To describe what a co-wash is not a conditioner that you use as a shampoo. There are some surfactants in it, but it is not as strong of a detergent as shampoos are. So,
Oh,
shampoos like actually lather and they create bubbles. Essentially, what those bubbles are doing is taking all of your sebum, trapping all of those things in the bubble, and it is able to like just bounce off your hair, right?
okay.
A co-wash, how I usually say it is that shampoo removes, a co-wash moves, and then a conditioner deposits. And what I mean by that is that the best oil for your hair is really the sebum that you create. Sebum is just a little bit tricky, it's kind of sticky. It takes things from the environment. It can host bacteria because it's sticky. So
Yeah.
many of us just want to get rid of it because it's like a problem. But if we can manage that sebum, we can get some really good use out of it. And that's what a co-wash helps us do. Instead of
Oh,
stripping all of the sebum away, we want to take some of the stuff out of the sebum and not just take it all away. And that's what a co-wash does.
oh, so it's more of like a gentle wash with like it's not
Correct.
removing everything, but it's like I love what you said though. It's not removing, it's moving.
Moving, right. So a
It's a
lot of
great
the
visual.
times, yeah, a lot of the times, like the sebum, especially with textured hair, it doesn't slip right down and come down
Yes.
to the mid shaft to ends quickly, right? It takes a little bit of time, which is why you shouldn't be shampooing every day. You want to give that sebum an opportunity to move down the hair shaft, right? But you want to
Mhm.
make sure that it's moving down and not full of bacteria and not creating some things at the scalp, right? So you
Right.
do need to be cleansing, but not with a shampoo. So a co-wash enables you to cleanse with the kind of frequency that you need and not be as stripping.
Okay.
That's why when I was asked like what products do I want to feature, these are the three that I'm talking about. I think are the most functional and the
Yeah.
most universal. Like everybody needs a leave-in conditioner in their bathroom.
Yeah.
Everybody needs with you when you have textured hair. Everybody needs a co-wash because depending on how you live, right? So as a general rule of thumb, but again, this is based on lifestyle. Textured hair should be cleansing anywhere between once a week, once every 2 weeks, or once every 3 weeks. Now, if you want to cleanse more frequently in the middle, use the co-wash.
Oh wash.
Mhm.
I think I need to do that because what happens if you do wash your hair too frequently
It will feel dry and you will find yourself feeling more frizzy.
and it gets itchy?
Correct.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, did my dog just bring in some fleas again? It's like, no, I think I've been washing my hair too much.
Yeah.
Okay, that's actually a really, really good tip. This is the first time I'm learning about co-wash, and I thought I knew all my Aveda products, and I don't. Look at
I
that.
know. And you
Learning
know
something
what?
every day.
They the co-wash came out a really long time ago when co-wash was like really popular on YouTube. And then nobody in Aveda knew how to sell it because the main demographic of shoppers from Aveda were white people, so they didn't really understand the function.
Mm,
Also, package it identical to the shampoo, and the only difference was a light co-wash that made the distinction. So people didn't even realize there was a different SKU on the shelf. They thought it was the shampoo. We
that
are
makes
relaunching the Be Curly line, and Be Curly is going back into a leader so that it can be in back bar, so the stylists can use it as well for their clients. But there's not enough good education around it, and I think that's also why that SKU didn't sell.
yeah,
But I have been petitioning with Aveda for the last 2 years to bring it back because I think it's imperative. It's an
yeah.
imperative tool in the texture game.
I was gonna say if there's not enough information, and that's why you're here,
Right.
educating all of us. Because I'm so going to be incorporating this for myself and my daughter, who
Right.
has very curly, like not like tight curls, but they're like it's interesting because, like you said, sometimes her hair wants to do what her hair wants to do. And certain days it just gets super curly. And then this is when we use this guy right here as well. Love this stuff. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, so the curl gelée, so that's kind of where I was heading
Gelée. It
before.
sounds so fancy too instead of
I
gel.
know. Well, my
Nothing
name
wrong
is
with gel, but
so
gelée just sounds so much more.
I know, and it has the accent like my name, so my name is Renee
Renee
Gelée.
Gelée. Oh my God, it does.
Yeah, I worked really hard with R&D on this one, because it like I wanted a gel that performed but didn't strip the way that gels usually do because they're chock full of alcohols. To
Yes.
create that cast, you need a lot of alcohols. You need something to cure, right?
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that's a drying agent for texture
Yeah.
clients. So it was trying to figure out how do we take plants and make them powerful enough to create that cast and that hole without all of those drying properties to it. And
Right.
I really do believe that the gelée is like a miracle product because
Yeah.
it does that. And another
It
one of the
leaves your
things,
hair soft as well. Like I find every time I touch my daughter's hair and she has it, like you said, it doesn't leave like that. And a lot of time people when they think of gel or mousse, they think it's going to leave it hard, but it
yeah,
doesn't. It leaves it
yeah.
nice and soft.
If I so depending on the texture, like I'll use a lot more of it, and then it hardens up a little bit more, so it creates that cast. So like I do want people to embrace frizz, but it's really about the education about how much frizz looks still presentable. Like I withstand a lot of frizz in my own personal life, as you can see today. Like
Me
I'm
too.
just like,
Girl,
this
you
is
have no
what
idea how much gelée and hairspray
is in
we
there
have
right
in my
now.
hair.
Yeah. Um, but what you want to do is like put in your products enough so that it makes a cast when it fully cures, and then you dishevel it, right? Then you make it big, then you
Yeah.
let it grow. And what's nice about the gelée is that oftentimes gel have a white cast, and then when you break the cast, it flakes white. The gelée doesn't do that when coupled with the spray leave-in conditioner. Now, if you put like an opaque cream prior to putting on the gelée, it can cast a little white. But if you use everything in the Nutriplenish line prior to using the gel,
Okay.
like the spray leave-in conditioner, it there's no white cast.
I love that.
So sometimes I like a cast because casts give full control over my curls as it's drying, my curls and coils. And then once I'm fully dry, I break that cast and I make it soft and touchable, but then I have maximum definition.
Okay. And is that at that point, do you use the curl enhancer? When do you use this?
So curl enhancer is more of a cream. So think of like using your creams when you want like soft, pillowy curls. Oftentimes the clientele that's good for that is when the cuticle layer of the hair is smooth.
Oh,
So, like if somebody has like a wave or a coil and it reflects a lot of shine naturally, that usually means it's because their cuticle layer is smooth. So you need less control and more slip. When you have a cuticle layer that is to the medium to coarse side, like you literally just run your hand down, and if you feel like a lot of bumps and stuff, you have a coarser cuticle layer, which I do.
yeah,
So when I style, I use something with more grip. So I think of a gel.
I see. So this is for slightly looser curls.
Looser, but it could also be used on a tighter curl, but that has a smooth cuticle layer. That's just more of an anomaly. Usually, when you get into curls, because again, back to just the science of the hair, the keratin grows on it, not as efficiently, and so you'll get the feeling of it is more coarse as you run your hand down. When you have a cuticle layer that's really stacked, um, that's when you get that smooth cuticle layer. And generally, for patterns that bend, you don't get that as much, but sometimes it does happen. So
Yeah,
it just like I'll look at my clients. So I have clients that have a coil, and it reflects a lot of shine because of how smooth their cuticle layer is. It's not.
interesting.
It doesn't happen often, but sometimes it happens, and then I could reach for a curl enhancer then as well.
I see. So that's like actually that's a really good cool tip to just kind of test your own hair to see what
Yeah.
kind of smoothness you have, and then based on that, you can go with that. Do you have any other tricks or tips that you can pass along? I love what you said about let your hair be hair. embrace the frizz. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that, but
Yeah.
it's so true because when you do see people embracing it, those are usually the people that I'm the most envious about when it comes to hair. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at her big hair. And what is that saying? The bigger the hair, the closer to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, take me. But like,
Yeah.
so that's a trick. I love the leave-in conditioner trick as well for 3 days, up to 3 days. And then if you are going to give a gentle wash to go to co-wash, so you're not stripping everything, anything else you can pass along so we can embrace our textured hair. That's not
Uh,
straight.
yeah. I think just consistency is the name of the game, right? Try to lock in with a hairstylist that you could really be consistent with. Lock into products that you feel that you can be consistent with. Sometimes, like, you'll be like, oh, the shampoo stopped working. I have to like switch it up. That's generally because that shampoo probably has something in it that's not working for your hair. What's
Mhm.
good about Aveda is that it is vegan. It is all natural. Like, you won't find yourself being like, oh, I got to give up on my shampoo. I got to try something else. It's not working anymore. So Aveda just happens to be a dependable product that you can like continue to work with until you nail your regimen. But just know that your starting point is that you're starting with things that you could put on your hair and trust that while it's there, it's doing good things for it.
Okay. Okay. Amazing. Well, on
Yeah.
that note, let's give away another prize, shall we? Okay, here's the question, folks. What product defines and elongates curls and waves while keeping it hydrated? Is it Nutriplenish Curl Gelée? Am I saying it right? Gelée?
Gelée.
Gelée. Let's try that again. Is it Nutriplenish Curl Gelée? Or is it B, Curly Curl Enhancer? And I don't have a product for this. Is it air control? So is it A, the Gelée, or is it B, the curl enhancer, or C, air control? So if you can please type in your answer into the comment box on aveda.ca. The first person to answer that will receive an amazing kit valued at $250, all for textured hair essentials. I do also want to clarify that we are not discriminating against straight hair. This specific series was all about curly textured hair, which curly hair can come in so many different forms. So we do love all the straight hair people out there as well. But today it was all about curly hair as well. But yes, as Renee said, textured hair is straight to curly to coily to all different textures, and we love them all. I just want to always put that out there as well. Renee, thank you so much for joining us today. This was so educational. I am actually definitely going to actually start putting in the co-wash in there, which makes a lot of sense for my hair routine as well, because I feel like because of putting in so many products, I feel, and you just feel that dirtiness in your hair, but you don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to strip away all the good stuff as well. So that was a huge takeaway for me and everyone who was watching. I hope you got a takeaway as well. As always, send us DM if you have any questions specifically towards for curly hair. And if there was something that we didn't cover, we would love to hear from you and we'd be happy to answer all your questions as well. Renee, as always, it was a pleasure. And we will once again be coming back on for Aveda's next guest series next week. So stay tuned for that announcement. And until then, Renee, I can't wait to meet you in person. I
I
really, really
know.
can. I love your energy. I love what you're doing. Keep what you're doing. You're literally fulfilling your purpose. And it's just fills my cup watching you do that. So thank you for saying yes to your calling because you're just killing it. You're amazing.
Thank you, Sonia, and thank you for everybody for joining.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.